I wanted to speak a wee bit about Alan McCoist. Obviously, when you signed, he was the gaffer. How was he? Obviously, he's a club legend, but how was he as a gaffer and his training? Obviously, for a while when things weren't going so great, you were hearing stories coming out of Auchenhowie that they were playing five-a-side games and the losers would have to line up the goal line and get balls kicked at their arses and stuff like that. Is that all just because times were hard? Was that kind of stuff happening? Do you know what I mean?
Listen, see when things go wrong, people always look for answers of why is it going wrong, and then all these things get brought up. See, when we were winning, we were doing things like that, and that for me, see if you're playing a fun competition, then that's punishment at most clubs. Is the player goes on the line and it's a shot for 18 yards and try and hit him, and it's that's absolutely, nobody says anything when we are winning games. But then as soon as you're losing games, and that's all of a sudden a problem to do that. That for me isn't the reason that when we started struggling, it was Ali McCoist was a fantastic manager, to be honest. He was a real infectious person, which everyone can get when you listen to him and watch him on TV. But he was like that as a manager, really cared about his players, really wanted his best out of his players. And I would say Ali McCoist had the hardest time, and probably one of the hardest times in Rangers history to manage the club. If everyone knew what was going on at the club at that point, then they would realise that, listen, how he managed to continue to be manager for so long. There was people inside Rangers that wanted him out. They wanted him out and were stabbing him in the back, were trying to get him out. And Ali obviously loved the club.
Yep.
And we do everything for the club. And again, I knew firsthand that there was people trying to get him out when again, it wasn't even when things were going wrong. They wanted their own people, or up the stairs, people were backstabbing everyone, and it was a real difficult period for Ali to manage a team when you've got all that stuff going on up the stairs, and also you've got this external pressure from your fans, which is always there, but expectation of winning 4-5-0 every week because you're in the lower leagues and because of Rangers. So for me, he was a really good manager. Give me the opportunity to play at Rangers, but not just that. I think his heart was in the right place. He worked hard. He wanted the best for the club. But I would always say he's had the most difficult time to be Rangers manager because of what was going on.
You spoke a wee bit about signing and meeting Charles Green. I know that he wasn't there for that long when you signed, but we hear some stories about him being dead eccentric and this and that. Did you have much dealings with him personally, or was that all going on up above your level, just trying to continue playing?
It was interesting because when I signed actually my contract, my pre-contract, Charles Green was chief executive then. By the time I actually got to the club, he'd left the club. So the only dealings I had with him was a sort of a small amount. Again, I probably felt when I met him that he didn't have the club at heart. I don't think he did, and I think that's kind of been proven now a little bit that Charles Green was, as you say, an eccentric character and wanted to do things his own way. But it was almost like, I've met chief executives throughout my career at different clubs, and they understand where you're coming from, exactly what my background was, what they're signing, who they're getting as a person, a personality, a player. And I just didn't get that feeling off Charles Green that he even really knew who I was a little bit, which was, for me, was strange. Again, probably the thing that was good that Andrew Dixon was there, the finance director, and Andrew's a great guy and knows a lot about the club and works hard for the club, still works for the club, and is a fantastic person. So again, speaking to him put me at a little bit more ease rather than speaking to chief executive. But that gave me a feeling, especially when I've went on in my career now and dealt with so many chief executives, that listen, they should know every single thing about me because they're signing me. They're the people that are bringing me to the club. They've done the deal. Whereas I think Andrew completely understood what I was, where I was coming from, blah, blah, blah. And I just didn't think Charles Green really knew too much about me.
So you play the full season at Rangers that year and win the League One trophy. How was that celebrated? Was That's a big achievement still. You're moving up a league. It's another step of the journey completed. Although budgets are bigger, it's still a big thing to win a league. Yeah?
Massive, and it was again, we finished that season unbeaten in the league, and that was a big thing because when we won the league, it was won well before the end of the season, and again that then pressure and what Rangers will be feeling now and that players will be feeling now is that can they go unbeaten, and I know Steven Gerrard's saying it's not the biggest thing, which it's not because they've won the league. That was the biggest thing, but inside themselves they'll want to go the season unbeaten 100%. They'll be desperate to do that because we were as well. But the pressure builds and it becomes harder and harder. And again, it was a fantastic achievement. And listen, that's what we set out to do. We can't do any more than winning League One when we were there. That's as much as we can do as a team. And we got that job done. It was a tough season. I remember at the end of the season, it was probably the first time in my career. I played a lot of games in the SPL with Kilmarnock, but it was the first time in my career I was mentally tired at the end of the season. And I think that was probably down to the unbeaten thing as well, because we were desperate to keep that going, and we didn't want to let anyone down as well. So it was a huge achievement and a great day for me. Just going around the stadium, I had my young girl there. She went around the pitch with me and had some great pictures and great memories. And no, listen, to win anything in your career, it's a major achievement.
So, see, after you win that, is there a feeling within the squad and within the team that we're going to go again next season and the juggernaut continues right through the championship? Obviously, I think Hearts and Hibs both end up in the championship that year.
Yeah.
But was the feeling within Ibrox still very much the journey continues and we'll go and expect to win the championship next year?
Yeah, there was always the expectations that you need to win the championship. That was the expectations, and again there was still this noise again up the stairs that was mumbling away. Things were changing. I think when I was at Rangers, the chief executive changed like 5 times, which is incredible, and that just tells you things aren't right. That they're meant to be the leaders of your sort of your group. I know there's a board above them, but they're the ones that do all the day-to-day stuff within a club and make sure it runs right, from the finance department to the footballing department to everyone. And it just kept on changing, and it was things still weren't right. There was a lot going on in the background, but we as a group still expected to win the championship. We had added 2 or 3 players. We went sort of into pre-season feeling really good. I think we went to America that year and done a pre-season over there for 2 weeks, and then we came back. I think we played Newcastle in a friendly at Ibrox, and then we went in the season, and it was always going to be a real tough season with Hearts and Hibs being in the championship. Probably that league was more exciting than the Premier League that year. But it was something that we still looked at and thought, you know what, we need to go and win this league. And unfortunately, obviously, we came a little bit short. A lot happened in that season. But again, I still say that's part of the process.
Yep, you talked here about signing a couple of players. Do you think throughout the journey up through the leagues, Rangers maybe missed a chance at producing our own youngsters rather than maybe throwing money at a Sindazar, an Ian Black? Or do you think there was boys in the academy there coming through at Auchenhowie that could have done a job in the divisions and bonded as a team? Do you think we maybe missed a chance there?
I think it was really difficult at that point because of the pressure. I think to throw a team of young kids out there who you're expected to win the league. Even when we went in the championship, we got nailed for not winning it. And again, even if you go into League One and League Two with youngsters, they maybe could have done a different model, but were they prepared for that? Probably not. No. Are they trying to? For me, I look at the club at the moment, and they're trying to work out how do they get more Nathan Pattersons playing every week. They're looking at their model, like is it loan deals? Is it having a partnership with another club? Is it they've obviously got the Orange County thing going on over in America? So they're trying different things at the moment, and that's Rangers are at the top at the moment. So I just think the timing of it, they needed to probably go out and sign these players because of the pressure, because of the expectation. I think they maybe could have bred 1 or 2 more in, but I really think the model they done it on probably was right, because it dragged them pretty quickly to the Championship, and then in the Championship, obviously, we had to stabilise for a couple of seasons. But the Championship's a really, really hard league, and again, Hearts and Hibs have both found that out, and then Rangers have kicked on into the Premier League, and I think the model was. Everyone looks from the outside and says, "Oh, could we have just looked at our youngsters?" But I don't think Rangers were prepared at that point for them. They're not in the place that they are now.
Yep. So the next season, 2014-2015, you started the season injured, dislocated shoulder.
I started the season, I played a few games and I actually dislocated my shoulder. We played Falkirk on a Friday night. I played in that game, and in the first half I made a save close at somebody's feet, and it sort of whiplashed my shoulder back. And the physio came on. I remember it really well because this was a real point in my career that I'll never forget. That I felt something in my shoulder that night, and the physio came on, checked it. I was okay. I played on till half time. Checked me again at half time, and it was fine. They were quite happy with it, and I played the rest of the game. I remember in the last minute I made a really good save from one of the players from a free kick, and we won the game at Falkirk. It was a tough game, and we were training the next day because I think we played Clyde in the Cup 2 days later. And normally after a game, you wouldn't, especially a night game going into the next day, you wouldn't train. But because we had the game so quickly, I thought, you know what, I'll go out and do some handling. And that morning, I never even thought of my shoulder, never ever even contemplated that. It wasn't sore, wasn't stiff, wasn't anything. Just went out and says, right, I'll do a bit of handling. Within 20 minutes of doing a couple of catches, we've done a couple of dives to the side, and I mean, not even stretching out, and I dived down in my shoulder. I just felt something happened to my shoulder. I didn't know what, because I've never dislocated my shoulder before. Something happened, and then I quickly stood up, grabbed my arm, and just started walking in to go into the physio. I knew something had went wrong, and on the way in, Jim Stewart had said, try and relax a bit, and as I relaxed, my shoulder I heard a clunk, and it clunked back in. And then I went and seen the physio, and Stevie Walker, the physio, was assessing me, and he was lifting my arm to the air, and as he was lifting my arm halfway up, it popped back out, and he grabbed it and he knew it was out, and then he managed to get back in, and that was a real hammer blow to me in my career. Massive, because your shoulder as a goalkeeper, it's so difficult to deal with. You need it to be strong, and it was a change, probably a career changing moment for me, to be honest, because I was in good form that season as well. I was enjoying my football, I was ready, I was playing well, and it was again, we went and seen a surgeon on the Monday. The surgeon says I was desperate not to get an operation, so I'd done 4 weeks of rehab. The surgeon says, look, the chances are probably 30% you'll get away without getting surgery, but I said I'll take that 30%. I tried 4 weeks of rehab, and I was almost ready to play. I think we were due to play Alloa away, and I'd got myself back, feeling good. Done a lot of stuff, handling, I was okay. I'd done some dives, felt as if my shoulder was all right. And on the Thursday, I went in to do extra training, caught a cross, I fell, and it popped out again. And that was it. But it was out, and I couldn't get back in. I had to go to hospital. I think they gave me ketamine at that point to get back in. So that was the moment that it was a major blow, because I knew it was a 6 months injury.
So that season, your understudies, Steve Simonson and Lee Robinson.
Yep.
How was working with the boys? From the outside looking in, Rangers having a big history of good goalkeepers, and include yourself in that. I didn't think they were the standard dropped a bit when you went out that season, and maybe the boys, Lee Robinson's big old sport goalie gloves, you'll need to give us a word on them. They were horrific, were they not?
Lee Robinson's gloves, man. I think he wore magic gloves underneath his gloves sometimes. No, listen, it was. I think they were great guys, but I think they were probably brought in to be number twos.
Yep.
And then when something major happens to your first team goalie, and again, as I say, it was a 6 months injury for me. I needed to get my shoulder reconstructed pretty much, and for them guys to then be given the opportunity, it was great for them, but where they weren't used to. I'd had a season, I'd been bred into the Rangers mentality.
Yep.
And they were sort of in the background for it. So I think it was really difficult for them. I really do. I think it was one of them ones that they came in, they probably weren't expecting that opportunity. And again, I had a relationship with the back four as well. So it's always difficult.
Yep.
Always difficult to change that. And yeah, maybe it did fall away, because I felt as if when I'd got my injury, I felt as if I was in really good form, and I'd had a good pre-season, and again, it was a hammer blow to me when I got that injury.
In the Championship that year, obviously Hibs had players like John McGinn in that playing for him, so it wasn't as if Hibs and Hearts were a soft side. But I was looking at some of the players we had that year: Wallace, Big McCulloch, Black, Vukic, Templeton, Boyd. We had a team strong enough that we should have done better.
Definitely should have done better. Again, it's when you start to, we lost a couple of key games that were probably confidence-wise killed us a little bit, because again, I remember watching on the telly when I was injured that we got beat off Alloa away, and that was a major blow, because it was, from the outside in, it looks horrendous. We were getting a lot of stick. I think there was, again, that season was the season that I knew there was a lot going on in the background. Obviously, the Newcastle boys coming in, that situation, that was, the manager didn't even know they were coming in. They turned up at the training ground, knew nothing about it, which is wrong. And that's when there was major cracks appearing up in the hierarchy that was affecting the team as well. When you've got 5 boys getting sent on loan that your manager doesn't know anything about, that's not acceptable for me. And again, there was a lot of changes that season. I think it massively affected us. I really do. There's no excuses for the players. We should have performed better, but there was so much going on upstairs. I think that was the season that I noticed that it really changed, affected our management staff and affected the players as well.
Yep. So we get to we secure a playoff place, and you're back by this point fit.
Yeah.
The games against Motherwell, first game, obviously a disappointing loss. Going into the second leg of that, did the players feel that they could still turn it around?
It was interesting, the playoffs. I mean, I'd only got back fit just before the playoffs, so I hadn't played a lot of football. And then what had happened was I'd actually picked up a knee injury in training, so my knee kept on swelling up. We didn't have time to really. We did have time, but we didn't assess it properly because I didn't really want to know the outcome of it. My knee was swelling up. I wasn't training a lot. I was getting injections in my knee before. This was even before the playoff games. I was getting injections in my knee just to play, and then it was taking 2 or 3 days to calm it down to play another game. And then when the playoffs came, obviously we played Queen of the South home and away, managed to get through that. I wouldn't say convincingly. We looked tired. We looked mentally sort of drained a little bit, everything that happened. Stuart McCall came in by this point, so it was a different style of play. And then Hibs away, home and away, was a massive game because they were a good side. They had some good players. So then I remember the game at Easter Road, and it was very tight, and we got through that. So there was the high of that, but also that took a lot out of us. That was like a cup final alone itself, even at that stage. And then you've got another huge game against Motherwell sort of 3 or 4 days later. And again, I was getting injections so regularly in my knee that it wasn't good for me. But again, I was putting myself out there, and I've always said that it was my choice to take them. I wanted to play for Rangers. So with the home game at Motherwell, I felt that was a time that we looked tired. We looked as if the season had taken its toll on us. Everything that had happened, from the boardroom level stuff all the way down to where we were at playing level, the amount of games we'd played, everything. And it was just it was really the home game was a hammer blow. After the game, I remember thinking that we still believed we could have done it, but I think it was more hope than actual real belief, because we just looked so tired, and we knew we had another game 3 or 4 days later, massive game again. And it was just it was disappointing. Obviously, the game at Motherwell, it was hard, 0-0 at half time. I felt as if we probably had to score in the first half if we had the opportunity of. And again, we didn't really look like scoring. I think they had a couple, if I remember back, they had a couple of opportunities in the first half that was close, and we didn't look like we looked tired. And then obviously the goal that everyone speaks about that I need to live up to. And again, I've spoken about it many times that it was a mistake, and people say, why did it happen? I said, honestly, you can't, when these things happen, you can't explain it. and again, people say, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Honestly, I can't explain it, and it was just a mistake, and it was obviously it was up the wrong time to make a mistake, but in my view of it overall, we'd already lost the tie, and people might say, oh, that's just an excuse. Not an excuse. Listen, I'll hold my hands up and say I made the mistake, and it was a crucial mistake, but yep. I felt as if we never had enough over the two ties to get through that. And it was really disappointing. It was hard for me as a person to deal with. I got a lot of stick from that. Still do to this day. But that's part and parcel. You learn as a person, and it probably made me stronger as a person. And again, you understand who the people around you.
Yep.
That's your support mechanism. It needs to be really strong, because I had a whole summer thinking about that. Also knew my knee was done. I played in that game, and then I had to go and get surgery, and it was another 5 months. I'd actually, when I went and found out after that game what I'd done to my knee, I'd torn my articular cartilage, which is never repairable again. And I had to go and get a microfracture done on my knee, surgery, and I was out for 6 months. And that was the nail in the coffin for me. It was really, really disappointing, because I'd obviously made that mistake, then you had 6 months of surgery ahead of you, and it was a long summer, that one.
Yeah, I remember talking about the mistake. Obviously, I remember at the time my dad saying to me, "You look like a drunk guy at a christening, trying to keep the bloods up with the veins." But having played in goals myself at junior level, obviously watching Xander at professional, it's, unless you've played in goals and been in it, you know yourself, you do that at training once a month. It just so happened that it happened for you in a big game at a big moment. And it isn't unexplainable. It's not as if you meant to trip over or lose your footing. It's just hard that people don't understand that unless you've been in the situation, how easy it is. It's like a defender missing a clearance or a striker. But when you're the goalkeeper, it's magnified that much, yeah. And as you say, people still talk about it to this day.
Definitely. I think it's one of them things that, again, as I say, when the deflection happened from the shot and it looped up and over, again, I started to go back, and I probably stumbled a little bit. Yep. And again, that was one of with my injury, with my knee, it was always going back and trying to push off. And I'll never use it as an excuse, but did it play a factor? It did for me. I remember going in at half time in that game, and I said to the physio, my knee's done. It was so swollen. And I think he gave me a couple of tablets to try and take that would try and reduce the swelling. And honestly, it was at the end of its road. But it's not an excuse. It's just again, I'm always aware of that at the time, and it was a mistake. And as you say, it happens in training. I've done worse in training, 100%. But it's just one of these things that you need to deal with, and I had to deal with it. And for me, it was a mistake, but we'll hopefully move on from it.
Big Moshni, giving it the right, left, right, three punch combo. What was he like? He seemed like an eccentric big guy to play alongside of.
Do you know what? He was the nicest guy off the pitch. Very religious, very polite. And again, I knew he had a mad moment in him, because again, when we're playing away at East Fife and the fans are giving him a little bit of stick, he's reacting to him and he can't leave it. And that was the moment when I was playing them at them times, I thought, do you know what, you'll never last at Rangers, because you are reacting to fans at East Fife, never mind at Aberdeen, never mind at Dundee United, and all these places that it's hostile and Hearts and stuff. And I knew, I'd heard stories that he'd had a moment of madness at Southend as well. I'd heard the story that he'd been sent off and he'd went up with a pair of scissors to the away dressing room, which I don't know if is true, but that was a story I'd heard before he'd done the Motherwell incident. And I just think he lost it at Motherwell. He did. He'd completely lost his mind a little bit and seen the red mist, but he also couldn't get out of the red mist, because we were trying to drag him off and saying, look, Bilel, the game's done. We're beat. Listen, we're all disappointed, but you can't carry yourself in that way. And we were all frustrated. Listen, no more than me, frustrated, but Bilel was in the changing room, smashed the mirror and punching the walls. Everyone was trying to, he's a big boy as well. So there's about 4 of you trying to control him. And then he's wanting to go to the away dressing room and like, look, you can't do that. And eventually got him to calm down. But even on the bus, he seemed quite calm. Next minute, he sees Lee Irwin again, and he's off the bus trying to go at him again. And it was a mad moment. And again, I knew when that had happened, I knew that obviously his career was over at Rangers, but he would always struggle because he can't control himself on a football pitch, and how much can a manager ever trust him?